Once again, I welcome all of you to Agile Network India. We start our day one with Bengaluru chapter on developing leadership to enable transformation by Vinay Baijal. He, he's the head quality and agile practices at Siemens Technology and Services Limited. I request Abhinav to come on cam and unmute himself, and he'll be the facilitator for this session.
Hi everyone, thanks Nisha. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, thanks for making time and joining us on this fine Saturday morning. Topic for this session would be developing leadership to enable transformation, and our speaker would be Vinay Baijal. Vinay is head of quality and agile practices at Siemens Technology and Services Limited. So about today's topic, for any successful and sustainable agile adoption, it is very important for us to invest early in the leadership development. Most agile adoptions fail after the coaches leave because the culture, mindset, behaviors, and governance do not change for a sustained success. Hence, as a part of today's session, we will try to understand the leadership traits and behavior essential for leading a transformation. Number two, understand how to identify people with these traits. And number three, how can we groom people to be a successful transformation leaders? Now, I would like to invite Vinay to share his insights on this topic. Over to you, Vinay.
Thanks, Abhinav, for a warm welcome, and thank you everyone who has joined on this Saturday morning. I hope that in the next 50 minutes or so, we can have some engaging conversations. So I think a brief introduction has happened about me, but maybe a couple of things to add. I have about 29 years of experience, practiced Agile, Lean, Six Sigma, drive changes, and have been involved in multiple global transformations in different forms, shapes, and industries, different locations. And what I will be talking about today is amalgamation of experiences through my 29 years of experience. What I love and I'm passionate about is developing people. And while I develop people, I'm very excited always about delivering results. I'm a big risk taker. I get into a lot of ambiguous projects. I've done that multiple times when nobody knew how to do Y2K project management and ensuring organizations to move to a new millennium. I got into it. Then Euro followed. So these are the kind of projects I've done in the past. I've been involved in CMMI journeys where there was very less hope, no hope situations. I've been involved in multiple difficult projects all my career, and I've always enjoyed that. I've worked with large corporates, big brands, most of my career, American Express, HP, Target, HSBC, and Siemens. And I've got the advantage of working with training about 2,700 people across 7 countries, multiple locations in India. So broadly, this is what I have done in my career, and I'm proud of what I've done. What here I'm talking about today is some experiences, and the idea is basically these are all my ideas. These are my thoughts, my experiences. What I think I observed and can be beneficial for one of or all of you. These are experiments. These are experiments we have done in the organizations, and we also, every organization where I work, they may have a different view. I have a different view. Sometimes, that is what it is. So what I am sharing with you is today absolutely my views. Okay, and what we will be talking about today, there are 4 broad categories of what I will be talking about. And initially about part of this conversation is about what I will be sharing, and then we'll get into a Q&A based on what questions you ask. Now, what's the need of developing leaders? I'll touch base upon that. What should be the leadership traits? How do we identify talent? Because as a bit of talked about, there are a lot of times what happens is we are very interested in developing talent, but we don't focus on who should be developed. And there are some pitfalls. I'll be talking about that. And then what's the role of a leader in the organization? Because in any change, just by hiring coaches or a consultant or somebody who is experienced is not the end of responsibility for the leaders. There is a lot more which can be done during the journey, and how and what needs to be done. I have some parts to be talked about there as well. Okay, so now let me first talk about what's the need of developing people. Before that, I think it's very, very important that why do we do transformations? I think this is also something which needs to be thought through. If I normally talk to people and ask people, and I meet a lot of coaches, I meet a lot of consultants, I meet a lot of my peers over the years, and we read articles, we watch YouTube videos. Mostly people categorize their need for transformation as I want to improve the speed, I want to reduce the cost, I want faster release cycles. And a lot of times, speed and faster release cycles are interchangeably used. Speed is speed of doing things, maybe in a micro level. Faster release cycles also helps in, okay, I've done something, but is there an end product user for that? Think about that. By only me localized optimization, will that help anybody? So these are things which are there. So these are three ways which are traditional, typical ways of talking about it. And then there are, because it's an emerging market, there is something happening in the competition has taken over. Unless I do that, I will be not known in the industry. A lot of case studies we all know about, the Kodaks and the Nokias and the various others, and I'm not picking only one or two of them, there are plenty of them, and we have heard about that in multiple forums. So we don't want to be that. Hence we want to be adapting the market expectations, faster, quicker, better. And then the last one, which I've heard, but I've heard few times only, is about culture change. How many people want to do a transformation because they want to change a culture? And everybody has a culture. Everybody has a culture which may or may not work in the new world. And the world is changing. We have all seen that in the last 18 months. Did we expect everybody to be working from home and efficiently and delivering everything? 90% of the world was sitting at home. Only few specific industries, they were outside, and they still performed. Everybody, this was a big myth buster. Nobody knew that how it will be handled. Work from home was, sometimes a big crowd puller and employee engagement gimmick in a way, saying that I will give you work from home. Now that's changed. That has changed. Now, are we changing? Are we having the leadership for the new environment? I think this is a question which we all have to ask, immaterial of what role we play, immaterial of the industry we do, and the product we serve. Now, some food for thought. These are traditional needs. The first three, the way I look at it. The second one is the survival need, as I described. I don't want to become Nokia, and I don't want to become a encyclopedia. I don't want to become a Kodak. Hence, I will do faster than what I did in the past. These are survival. But what is more critical and important is about sustenance. My thought is, if you are in the first three and you are only in the first three, revisit. Think about whether it's sustainable. And if it is not sustainable, then what? Then shall I bring more elements to that? Transformation is not about changing the process only. A lot of times we think changing the way we are operating will make a difference. We need to infuse leadership in that transformation journey. We have to infuse a lot of softer elements which are seldom discussed, because probably we think that HR will bring a policy and that policy will be implemented, will change the way we do our appraisals, will change the way we do compensation, and that will change the world. Absolutely not. It will not change the world. We have to change the culture by involving and investing heavily early on the leadership. And there's a very interesting thing. This cannot be a catch-up mode kind of a thing. This is not something where you can say, okay, I will start the process first in 2 years, and after that, whatever comes, then we will address what is there. You can't be reactive. If you are reactive, you may also be in one of those, you can keep on solving this. People will also keep on moving in and out, and you will not be able to retain the best people whom you want to retain. You will have people in your organization for a longer period. Maybe those are close to dead woods, or they may be already dead woods. But in the changing environment, do you want the people with the old thought process? Probably not. You have to think about that. So long-term strategy, always think about what the market is doing, always think about what kind of cultural changes we have to do by the involvement of leaders. So this is very, very critical. Now let me bring you some 30,000 feet thought process. I'm sure many of you would have read these studies and would have read a lot of stuff from that. Forbes says in their assessments that 84% of the companies fail in digital transformations. Stateofagile.com, who also publish every year reports, they say only 48% reported that most of their agile projects are successful. Only 48%, but 52% probably do not succeed. So that's also there. Gartner, in the report published in 2019, they said among the top 3 challenges, there are 2 things which were very critical and important. One was shifting from control to trust. So this is something which is again a very, very specific leadership topic, very, very specific how do you do delegation, that topic. And that has a difference between the other points by at least 20% percentage points. It means that that's the biggest area to be focused, but seldom we think about that. And then the last and very important is about cultural change. It has to be the veins in the body, like in the veins in the body, you don't count it, you don't know how it is, but it's flowing always. It's always flowing, and that makes you alive, that keeps you away from diseases, that keeps you active. This is very, very critical. There is another report which I want to quote here. This is something with State of Agile report, very specifically when they were doing a stack ranking of what needs to be changed and what are the challenges experienced. Among the top 4, you may find general organization resistance to change, because this resistance to change is for multiple reasons. One is definitely, I like the way I am. This has made me successful. Why are you bringing something new? Those are our standard responses. But then there is one more hidden response, which is insecurity. I don't feel that I will succeed in the new world. I don't think that I am empowered enough to succeed in the new world. I don't think that I am a leader enough to be successful. That's a very, very big thing. And then there is another one, which is about the cultural change. Again, talking about the cultural change and with agile values. Is it possible to connect agile values with what your organization culture is? Pretty easy. I think it's very generic. It's very, very, very adaptable. But are we thinking that way? Or are we saying agile values I will apply in projects, and culture I will do differently? We have to bring together. HR people have to sit together with the coaches and the transformation leaders and the various people and say, okay, now we will speak the same thing. It is not process something else. People I will deal with different list. It has to be a single list. So bringing all of that together and making that as enabler for culture is something which has to be absolutely brought in and has to be adapted very, very effectively. Now let's talk about how do we do that. First, let's talk about what are the leadership traits which are expected. At least from my perspective, there are some which I've listed, and these are very, very elementary. I'm not using any jargons from the management books. I'm not using anything which is like normally being published and repeated. And a lot of times we use some things which comes from the best of the publishers. I'm using something very, very simple, and I'm bringing 2 elements to that. In the green font, you may find the leadership trait, and I'm bringing the blue font, which is about what should come. That's the business element. Because a lot of times I can develop leadership, but if I don't get a business outcome, my ROI is not great. There are plenty of things which can be done, and a lot of times we are only business focused and we don't develop leadership. Yeah, you can achieve the goals, but how long? you probably can perish also with the same speed, the way you have improved and all that. So this is something which is which I want to just spend some time on that. We need to have a leadership called planning. Looks very simple, but then planning to ensure commitments, it enhances the effectiveness of what it is. We need to bring planning to ensure high level of commitments. Now, this is a very detail. If you are a detailed planner, then only you can ensure commitments. If you are a surface level person, okay, this is my checklist, I will do these things on A, B, C, D date and at particular time, and that's what will give you the, maybe not, because where is your plan B? Are you thinking about plan B, plan C? Because things will go wrong. There is no guarantee that you planned it will work the same way. Next is very important, problem solving. But problem solving to ensure delivery. Now, this is very critical. Problem solving, everybody knows. When you read the nice PPTs and the processes and the tools, everybody knows that. But when it is required, do you know that? You know, there are a lot of stories in our mythological and religious elements across the religions and across the cultures, that when you needed a particular skill, that is the only time you missed that skill. Rest you knew that. Now this is very critical. Are you getting agitated in the problem solving situation, or you are absorbing, thinking about it, what's my best way to ensure delivery at that time? What should be pushed that time? Should the people always be pushed, or there are other things to be looked at? Now this is very critical. And then performance development. The performance development has to be a very called out expectation from the leaders. A lot of times we think, okay, performance appraisal, so once in 3 months or once in a year or once in 6 months, I will deliver the rating and I will do some conversation. I'll ask, how are you feeling and all that. Will that change life? Absolutely, it won't change life. It won't. There has to be performance development for sustenance of your business. People are the most critical people, elements in running your organization. People are the most important people in making you successful for future. Now, if you don't do a structured people performance development, it won't change. Now, the next topic is talent development for ensuring growth. Now, this is very important. I talk about performance development and then I talk about talent development. How are they different? Talent, everybody in the team may not be talented. Some will be high talented, low talented, medium talented, may have very average skills. If they leave also, it's okay. Need not have to worry about every attrition. I think there's always a thought process. Oh, I have some 20% attrition. Why should I worry about every? I will worry about my 22% or 3% or 4%, which is my talent. Now, what are we doing for developing talent? And why is talent important? Now, talent is not important for your team member only. Talent is important for ourselves. For running an organization and to ensure growth, it's very important that we do something like that. So that's your next part, which is developing talent and developing only people who have the capability to be developed. Don't invest on everybody. I am a big proponent of that. I say that we have to choose where our investments have to be done. You can do performance development with, and you should do a performance development with 100% of the people, but talent development has to be very specific. You need to invest where you get the maximum buck for the money, and end of it, you're in business. Let's not shy away from that, because a lot of people say, oh, I want to be the nicest person, I want to be the most popular person, and I will I will send all the 10 people or 20 people in my team in the next training program. Why? What will you get in return? Think about that. Because you need to develop few people to become the leaders of the future of your organization and to run the next big things which you want to do in the organization. Third, and the next one, communication. I think it's very critical. There are multiple aspects of communication, but there are two aspects which are very critical. We are very shy, mostly in this world of IT. Broadly, I will not say that all, but I would say broadly, to convey wins and celebrate. We think, oh, that was our job, project deadline met, what's a big deal? But think about the person who worked on that, worked day in and night, and sacrificed some of the family elements, some of the things which the person would have aspired to do and achieve the goal. Why not celebrate? Why not have have conveying the wins in all forums possible. Now the world has changed. You cannot only celebrate and be happy within your world. The world is expanded to LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta, and there is an endless list, but these are the popular ones, but there are so many. Why do you want to go and talk about your success stories across the board? Because you want you to be seen as the market leader. Market leader is not always on the product side. Unless you are a market leader, how will you attract the best talent? And that is very, very critical. Communication is also another aspect which also I want to talk about it. How do you communicate the difficult parts in your transitions? And each one of us who have been part of the transitions, I'm sure that I've yet to meet a person who says that I never had a difficult conversation, never had a difficult conversation with the stakeholders, never had a difficult conversations with sponsors or team members. You know, you can't do a great transformation unless you go through that. But how do you communicate that? There are few ways of doing it. One, you can sugarcoat it. You can keep on sugarcoating it and making it so sweet that the person does not feel the pain, and the person feels, oh yeah, this is another thing, another nice stuff which has happened. And then there can be another extreme. You be very brutal. You become very, oh, this is the only way to do it, I'm telling you, and you have to do it. That's the communication. If you're doing it again, you will fail. You will not see the success. And then there's a balanced approach. You can be sweet, but you can have the right kind of messages. You can convey, you can engage, and you need to bring people closer to you, thinking and bringing that element of how do I make that change to bring a change in the organization which serves everybody's purpose. Think about that. It's very, very important. Don't miss out on communication. And then the last one, delegation. We talked about when we saw the survey results, that delegation is important. And it is very, very critical in today's world, because we are broadly in our IT world. What's happening today is, and any transformation broadly, what is happening is, in the past, every decision was made by the CEO or the CXOs of the organization. Today, the decision, some maybe 5-10 years ago, the decisions were made mostly by the middle management. Today, the decisions are made by the grassroots members. The members tell what policies should come. The members tell what delivery should happen, what should be the elements on your product backlog. Why? Because we have adopted Scrum, Agile, Lean. The basics, the philosophy is that the decision making should come from bottom up rather than top down. This is changing, but unless you are ready for this kind of leadership, how do you bring delegation in this as a skill? Because you're still controlling and not allowing team members to move, then it's a recipe for failure. Think about that as well as a key skill. Now, people don't follow leaders, they follow what they see in their leaders. It's very, very important quote. How you behave is what will decide the culture of your organization, and what kind of leadership you are creating in the organization. You can develop a whole bunch of yes people, but you will not succeed and you will not grow. I can guarantee you that. I used to have, I currently have, I will have in future also. A portion of my leadership team and my managers, they say yes to everything. But are they developing? Will they develop? Because they have to align every time when the leader changes. They have no view of their own self. But then when you develop people of a different way, when you are developing people for allowing them to engage, that is where you will see a very different organization which you are developing. Now think about that. You know, another thing again, I want to let you all know, in my view, this is very traditional. This is what we have seen like 30, 40, 50 years, maybe more than that. Whenever industrialization started, I think these are all very, very elementary for in my view. What's new which we have to add in our leaders? Communication and delegation, two things we have to learn. Because unless you're delegating, you're not freeing up yourself. You are not freeing yourself, you don't have time to think new. You can't be strategic, you can't compete with the market, you can't understand what's happening in the industry. So that's the very, very critical element, and we need to bring those new elements, new additions to that. And then the culture of team is, again, you know, I 100% attribute culture is decided by the leaders of the organization. If you as a leader don't own it, and you keep on saying that culture is not changing, I'm trying something, I don't think anybody has to be blamed. You have to look at the mirror, you know, think about what have you done to make it happen? So that's very, very important, and we need to think about what do we do that. So let me pause for a minute. And any questions if you may have, let me answer that before I get into. So this is all about what we should expect from leadership, and then I will talk about how it has to be done. So let me pause for a minute, and any questions I will be happy to take.
Vinay, so we have an audience question, and I also had the same thought around that. So the question is, as part of any agile transformation journeys, how should leaders move away from managing and directing style to more empowering and coaching or servant leadership styles?
Cool. Can you wait for this answer, because my next slides will probably respond to most of it.
Sure, Vinay.
Any other question?
Uh, As of now, from audiences, we had this question only. I have one more question, but I would want to wait till the end because I would like to see the furthermore content if it may be answered there.
Sure. I will just move to the next slide, the next section as well.
Thanks.
Now, I'm sure you would have all known who Peter Drucker is. Peter Drucker has made another very important element in some statement here. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. I think it's very, very important to understand that element. Now, how do we do that? And that's the part which we will be now transitioning to in my presentation in the next phase. Now, for me, one question which is very, very important is, so during the transformation, what should be the priority? And this is something which I've always seen there is an imbalance. There is always that we start with we will do transformation and then we get into fixing delivery issues. So don't focus on improving self. Self is myself, my team, my leadership, my organization, everybody, or fixing the team delivery issues. We started, and then that takes precedence. What happens? What are the few things which happen? The person who has been identified for transformation is busy delivery in the delivery. There is somebody else in the organization who is expected to play a particular role, and that person is busy ensuring delivery. There is people chaos over there, and then you don't know how to respond to that. Again, same person is ensuring delivery. So what happens after that? After some few attempts, the person who is in charge of the transformation also says, doesn't look like the organization has that as a priority. Let me figure out something else for myself. Now, this is a moment where you have to balance it. And how do you balance that? By doing proactive activities. I think one key message which I want to give to leaders who are attending, if they are attending, is that you need to upfront invest on leadership, and leadership which can allow you for sustainable business. A lot of times what happens is we be in the reactive mode, and people cannot be made ready for anything at short notices. You can, but you will drop a ball somewhere else. So whenever we are talking about transformation, whenever we are talking about thinking about we will go into something which is different from what it is today, think about how many people you want, what kind of people you want, and then what do you want those people to do. Be very, very articulate about that and allow them to do only that. And I'll talk about more specifics on that section in the next part. Now, this is something which is a dilemma for most of the middle management. I always feel, and I've been in that zone at some time in life, in my career as well. These are the people who are the most pressurized people. These are the people who everybody feels good that when they deliver things, but whenever something goes wrong, they're the most pressured people. Top management expects delivery, team wants time in crisis, the customer stares at you thinking about when are you delivering, what are we doing. This is the most, and this is where you will see that the highest number of frustration and influence for frustration in an organization comes from this band, and they need to be enabled. I think this is very, very important. If you are running an organization and you're not thinking about this group, then there is a big problem in your thought process, because you can make people run for some short period of time. You can ask them to run marathons, but you can't tell people that you can continue to run marathons for 30 days. You can at best do a 50-kilometer, and that's what it is. You can't make people say, okay, every time when there is an attrition, you have to again create a backup, you have to do something, but then you want no change in the timelines. You can't say that. There has to be a balance of what the customers want, what the team wants, and team leadership. Very, very important. The top management has to be very realistic about putting the expectations while we are doing transformation. And I'll quote something very interesting. One of the big transformations of 200 people, something was happening after the first release planning, and everything was gaga. Everybody was super excited of transforming a monolithic architecture software, and 3 months sprint. Everything was perfectly thought about what will be delivered and all that. A long list of ambitious product delivery was created. You got into that zone. The people were thinking about it, and 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, there's so much churn happening, so many new changes, adaptations, cultures, things were changing, and suddenly the productivity started dipping, and the leaders started saying, oh, how can this happen? Agile is failed. Everybody, everywhere it was published, the customers in the customer surveys gave low scores. The teams were frustrated because they were getting pressurized, they were not going home, or if they were going home, they had this in mind. The leadership was angry, everybody was angry. So, but the point is, that hockey stick which we talk about always, there is a dip. Recognize that there will be a dip. Whenever there is any kind of transformation, there will be a slowdown. Please accept that, don't ignore it. Have that patience. Allow that thing to go wrong. Allow that thing to go wrong when you have the right people around you who can take that. Figure out that part very, very critically. Think about how do you invest on management, create those backups. Have you thought about, and why this happened? Because the same set of 200 people were moved to the next one. There is no buffer. So you are wanting to change, but you don't have a time for training. You are wanting to change, but you're not having any time for delegation. You're wanting to change, but you don't have any moment for experimentation. How can you do that? Think about that. You have to invest extra to get extra. Now, when you get extra, after a few cycles, because it is a change of practice, which is what you have been doing for many years. You followed a process for 10 years and 5 years and 7 years, and now you're wanting to change everything in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Is it possible? Probably not. Should you expect that? Absolutely not. Leaders think that the culture will change in 3 months, 6 months. Absolutely wrong expectation. With my personal experience, I say 9 months, 12 months is when you see early signs of this. But have that patience. It's very important. Communicate this. A lot of times the coaches, the people who are involved in the transformation, they shy away from talking about it. Please don't shy away from doing that, because if you're shying away from doing that, it will come back to you very soon. People will have wrong expectations. You will at best be able to do trainings. You will be at best be able to tell how agile is done in the world and how the world has been successful, but your transformation may not be successful. It's very, very important that we have to talk about it. In communication, there is a very, very critical element. We need to talk about pitfalls also. We need to talk about challenges also. I always give this example of a kite. When you fly a kite, what do? You don't allow the string to go away from you, and you don't keep on pulling. You have to do the balancing act. This is very, very important in any transformation, and it is that leadership skill which we have to learn how to balance that entire thing. Invest on making leaders, and invest on making leaders effective and early on. Very, very important part. Any successful transformation, you may find this element. By only organizations where you have extra buffer and you have not called out everything, and then you have done that and you're not added people, done that, maybe there can be some lucky chances, but broadly this may not happen by default. Another critical element: how do you identify the talent? when I talk to people, and currently also in my role, I ask people whom do you think will take over from the coaches? Because day one we ask this question when the agile coaches get involved. Yeah, after 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, the coach will be exiting. But then who is your person? And mostly the answers which I get are, the person who's the most available person. This is my favorite. Always the person has no job, sitting on the bench. Somebody who is available and is the jack of all trades, somebody who can do anything. Just because you have to fill a position and you need to ensure that billing of that person is happening quickly, you make that most available person the person for transformation. Second, I'm sure you all will know and you all would have experienced the leader's choice. The leader loves that person, he or she, and that's the person who's the man Friday for everything. And for that reason, for transformation also, this is the person. Now, do you really think that the person fits into this work or something else? Challenge that. Think about that. The third category, which is very prevalent and very interesting, and I see that also very common, is somebody who has a long list of all certifications from every possible certification and every possible role. Now, my question typically for such people is, do you want to be Scrum Master in life? You want to be a coach in life? You want to be a product owner? Or you want to be everybody? And if you want to be an everybody, then will you be issuing certificates down the line in your career? Or do you want to train, coach people? What do you want to do? Learning, knowing the basic level, I understand, but mastery level for everything. Now this is where I get very confused, and I don't understand why they are the most qualified people for being the leaders of the organization. I'm sure that some of you may get offended who may have so many certificates, but this is my view. Now think about it. What are you doing with those certificates? I'm not against certification and education, but what I'm talking about is that helping you to be groomed further? That's the question to be asked. And whenever before you sign up for the next seminar or a certification program, think about it, whether it is helping me to be the next leader in the world of whatever you're doing, whether it's agile or anything else. Then there are skills which we need to think about, and while choosing people, we have to think about, is the person open to ideas? If the person is blocked and has only one way of doing things, or maybe at best two ways of doing it, is that the person you want to work with? Because this is all about experiments, and that knack for experiment is the next big thing. Unless you have a knack for experiment, unless you are in that zone that, well, let me try this, because there is no one recipe, there is no one size fits all. So many methods are there, so many frameworks are there, so many certification authorities are there, so many coaches are there. None of the two big ones will talk the same thing. So what does that mean? It means that everybody experimented, and whosoever experimented and succeeded is sharing the same knowledge. Now, are you in that zone where you want to experiment? Think about that. And then the last one, are you a risk taker or not? If the person is not a risk taker, is absolutely unfit for this role, for being a leader in today's world, for being a transformation leader. Absolutely no. So it's very critical that we have the right skills. And for me, the way I think about, if you have got only the first three skills, then you're just ensuring failure. Sooner or later you will get into some trouble for sure, because they are not the right fit for it. And I'm saying three of these my favorite skills. These are people who are experimental and coachable. Think about these skills, and then there will be many more skills, but I'm picking up my top three skills over here. And this is something we have to think about very critically and very objectively. It's good to fail at the start of the engagement and transformation rather than fail at a later stage, because when later stage, when you fail, you blame the methodology, you blame the coach, you blame the leader, you blame the customer, you blame the salary packet, you blame everybody else, instead of thinking about where the mirror was and what needs to be done. So now let's talk about, how do we do that? This is a people exercise, an unconscious selection, and is being influenced. So in being influenced, so this is very natural. do I say that I don't have these? I will be very I will be saying something untrue that I don't have these. I also have these. I also have a leader's choice for everything. But then, should I then evaluate this? Do I do that? I do this, and a lot of times it's my favorite, but does not have this skill for a particular purpose. I say no to it, and that's very critical. We need to know how and when to say no, and how to convey this to your favorite members. And having favorites in a team or in family or in society is not a bad thing, because a lot of times we think, oh, if I tell that, or if people will know that he's my favorite, there will be a problem. Why will there be a problem? The person deserves that. The person did something to become your favorite. Let that be your favorite. But then conveying that you don't have one of these skills and hence you are not chosen for a particular thing, that's the skill we have to develop. Because sharing bad news is also part of leadership. And then the last but very critical, and this is my last section, I want to talk about this as well. What's the role of a leader in this journey? Leader has a very critical role. A lot of times they go away just by giving views in the start of the meeting, start of the transformation, during the transformation, and end of the transformation. I make them accountable, and I think that that's very critical. There are two elements of a leader, and this I'm talking about the senior most leader, top of the CXOs and the next level of CXOs. This is the people who are investing money. These are the people who have all the vision for the organization. First, on the people side, there are four things which have to be done. The first part is very critical, which is about unblocking mindset issues. There are a lot of mindset issues. What will happen if I fail? What will happen? Will I lose job? Will something else happen? Will somebody else take over? There are so many things. And then why should I change? I have been successful in the past. So this has to be done by the leader. This cannot be done by an outsider or an insider coach. This cannot be done by anybody else. You can always tell the benefits of doing the right things, but unblocking, because it's a heart to heart conversation. A person who understands that person will be able to do that. Be a good listener. It's very important to become a good listener and listen to the person and what's happening, what's the noise around the team. It's very critical, and find and create multiple channels for listening. Don't rely only on your immediate manager. I think it's very important. This, a lot of times people rely only on very formal structures. Go to the planning sessions, get into the retro meetings, think about what's happening, talk in the one-to-one, skip levels, figure out what people are saying. Right, wrong, you decide later on. It's not very important to judge everything, but it's very important to collect. If there is a perception, whether it is wrong, it's perception that needs to be addressed. Promote a speak up culture. This is something which is very important in agile adoption and transformations. See, the fundamental of lean and agile is that people have to decide about it. It's very important. Now we have to promote that speak up culture. It's very important. And in the last but very critical, I talked about middle level also, that celebrate achievements. This again I want to talk about. Give credit to people who are transforming. Your business results in productivity terms, utilization terms may not have arrived yet, but if you see speak up culture is happening, you see the mindset is changing, people are wanting to experiment, celebrate, make them heroes and heroines. It's very critical at early stage. People will start believing in you. But if you only look at the dashboard and say, because productivity has not increased and improved, I will not call this the successful transformation. Please don't do that. It's a recipe for failure. And then one element over here, that leadership is all about vision and responsibility, not power. It's you also as leader have to delegate. You have to allow the rest of the people also to get better. And the process side, there's another. So one, I talked about the people side, then I'm talking now about the process side. I'll have time for review. I've seen transformations where after 3 months the person comes and say, oh, tell me what is happening in the transformation. You definitely are failing, because if you don't have time, nobody thinks that it is serious business. You don't have time, you don't allow that time, or you start the meeting and after 30 minutes you say, oh, I have another meeting with my boss or a big partner or a customer, then you lost it. Stop the transformation then and there itself, because you will not succeed. You can't rely on somebody else to become the If you are driving, then you have to be in the driver's seat. You can't expect the conductor to make you reach the destination. It won't happen. And support in the transition, very, very important. Talk to people. There will be enough number of things which you will have to look at and you have to do about it. Ensuring key roles play their key roles. I think this is very, very important. I a lot of times moments there are, we get frustrated and we laugh also about it. If there is a product owner, allow that product manager and product owner to play that role. Why are you becoming the product owner? Because you're the leader of the organization. Why are you thinking, oh, customer said this and hence it should be like this? Let that be decided by them. There is a process for collecting all the feedback. This is my favorite on the product manager role. And think about it. Are you also becoming a hindrance for the entire thing? You start playing the scrum master. You start thinking about what is happening in the risk management. So there are roles which you have defined. Allow them to do that. Allow team to take risk. If something they want to experiment, encourage them to do that rather than stop them to do it. Let people know that risk does not mean that it is bad thing. If you fail, okay, you're still in the job. Maximum what will happen? Take calculated risks. Help them in identifying what can go wrong and how it can be handled better. And the last one is helping in prioritization. I think it's very, very important that we help them in prioritization, because young leaders sometimes don't know how to prioritize, and you have the experience to do that. So failure doesn't mean the game is over. It means trying again with new experience. So hopefully, these are some of the takeaways I planned, and that's been accepted by you. I'll be happy to have more questions now. Abhinav, you may have questions now.
Yeah. Yes, Vinay. Thank you so much, Vinay. Vinay, we have an audience question by Girija, and the question is, how does a leader promote culture of psychological safety?
Okay, great question, Girija. My view is that psychological safety has two elements. First and the biggest thing on the face is that will I lose job? The second biggest challenge which everybody has is, if I don't lose job, will I lose my next big increment? Will I lose my opportunities in the future for not being picked up for big roles? So if the leader is able to communicate that part, that none of that will happen, this is an experiment, you're doing that, you try it. If you fail, we all fail together. If you succeed, it's all yours. I think this message has to be not conveyed in English, it has to be conveyed in spirit. And it's very, very important that people should practice this part. This is not something which happens automatically.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thanks, Vinay. Next question that we have, Vinay, is, and I find it really interesting, that when should we start or when should we stop the transformation, and why? So the stop part is actually quite intriguing for me. So I would love to hear your thoughts on
Okay.
that.
Well, I think we talked about how and why we start transformations. Let me tell you where I would say that stop transformation. First one, I will start with the leader. If the leader does not have time and the leader is changing the goalpost, stop the transformation. First, they say reduce cycle time. Second time, they say reduce people. Then they say, oh no, I have to be faster cycle time. You're confusing in 3 consecutive meetings. Have a very open conversation. Stick to one. I will work on that. I'll resolve this, and then I will come back on the second, third, and fourth point in the phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Talk about that. So the second part, if the second line management is not convinced, because second line is where the middle management is, where always we always call the belly part of the body. If the belly part is not helping you, even in your personal life as a human being, if your belly is not correct, you can't do anything. Fix that. Make them convinced. Correct whatever is to be corrected. Organization, policies, rewards, recognitions, giving them risk taking abilities, allowing them to be independent, training them, equipping them. I think making them ready for being leaders and managers of the new age. That's the second part. And the third part, if you have too short a period of time and you want to transform and you want to deliver at the same time, first deliver, come back, get more time, buy in, have the buy-in from the customer, and then start the transformation. Transformation and this, you can't change the tires of a vehicle which is running. It's always good only on a PPT only. It's seldom done successfully.
Thanks, Vinay. Vinay, I have one last question before we conclude today's session. The question is, when any agile transformation kicks in, we know that metrics discussions are not far away. So, and it normally is a pitfall when leaders focus on the traditional success matrix. So, what are your tips here?
Oh, I talked about it. So leaders, they have to choose between they want a culture to be changed or they want speed only or they want to go to market faster. If they want to go to market faster, they add more people or do more digitalization, they can achieve that goal. If you're wanting to transform an organization, you have to invest on culture. You have to invest on risk-taking ability in the organization. You have to allow, the best of the organizations. I don't want to name because I don't know who is there on the call. But best of the organizations are best because they took more risk than the rest of their competitors. They are best because they allowed people to innovate on a day-to-day basis. They made innovation as a culture, and innovation needs a lot of risk. You never know whether the product or the service will succeed or not till the time the customer consumer uses it. Till the time it's an experiment. Are you willing to invest that money on people and time? And there are millions and billions of dollars and euros which are spent to develop something, but that's your risk as a leader. If you don't have the courage for doing that, don't expect the people to do that.
Thanks, Vinay. Rightly put. So, thank you, Vinay. You have masterfully distilled years of lessons learned and given us really valuable takeaways from this session today. One key takeaway from me, and I like to just put it in one statement, that is, the transformation is not about changing just the process. It should be about changing the organization culture. Thank you so much, Vinay. Thanks for your time.